What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another match preview, and it's a big one in the Champions League against Sporting at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium tomorrow night, 8 p.m. kickoff, and it's a game where we can seal our fate into the next round, into the first knockout round of the Champions League, and it's up against a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde Sporting side. They started off the group on such fire. That fire seemed to have gone out a little bit. In terms of Sporting and how they've been doing this season, they are currently fourth in their division behind Benfica, Porto and Braga. So, I mean, they'd really expect to be probably a bit higher up in the standings. And in terms of their form as well, only 2 wins in their last 5 games, albeit 2 of those losses have come in the Champions League. And in terms of those Champions League games, they've had 3 players sent off in those games. In the last game, you had Escario and Pedro Goncalves sent off, so they're suspended for our game. And in the previous game to that, they had Adnan sent off.
The keeper.
So, yeah, the keeper. So they've had 3 sending offs against Marseille this year in the Champions League, which is quite shocking, to be honest. But
and you look at that away form as well, 3 losses in their last 5 games as well. So they haven't been that great away from home. And our home form's been good, albeit we did lose our last home game to Newcastle.
Yeah, we did. But I think on a whole, the home form has been really strong this season. When you take into account the last game we played against Sporting, obviously they played really well. Marcus Edwards was playing really well. But what can we learn from that game of how to beat Sporting this time around?
Yeah, I mean, we struggled to contain Edwards, and I felt, first of all, they do have some very big suspensions. For example, Pedro Goncalves, he's their top goal scorer this season, so the fact that he's out is probably very important. We got very much, I wouldn't say outnumbered in midfield, but we were very much not able to control the game in the way we like. I would say a draw would have been a fair result out in Lisbon, but they did get that last minute 2 goals in stoppage time, which maybe made the score look a bit more in favour of Lisbon than maybe the game was. We just got to be more creative, create more chances. I think we have to be a lot more aggressive. We weren't that aggressive out in Lisbon. We're a bit too standoffish. We have to make sure that Edwards isn't getting that space deep and getting a run on players like Dyer and whether it be Davis or Longley at left centre-back. We have to make sure that he's not seeing as much of the ball as he was, because we were struggling to deal with him when he was coming short and finding those pockets of space. And that was one of the keys, is the pockets of space in behind our central midfielders was causing us problems out in Lisbon. That's where they were finding the most joy. Now, with I'm not sure what formation we're going to go with on Wednesday night, but hopefully the fact that we're at home should put us more on the front foot and make us a bit more aggressive, and hopefully that should lead to either more mistakes by Lisbon at the back or just a lot more players going forward for Spurs, and hopefully that will lead to more chances being created than we did out in Lisbon.
Yeah, and you mentioned Marcus Edwards in terms of how dangerous he can be, how dangerous he was in the first leg. Cuti Romero was playing that day. But he was going through not such a great run of form at the time. It remains to be seen if he's going to be playing tomorrow night. Are you worried, first of all, if he doesn't play, in terms of the defenders that we will have on the pitch, Davinson Sanchez, probably Eric Dyer, and one of Davis and Longley, about how aggressive they can be up against Edwards?
A bit. I think Edwards was good. I don't think he's been that amazing as it seems this season. He's been a bit inconsistent, but it seems as though he's still going to be a threat. We know that
he'll come back to Tottenham with a point to prove.
Of course, yeah. So he's going to be a difficult, tricky customer when it comes to strength and pace and things like that. I think Sanchez is okay there. I think he can probably go toe-to-toe with Marcus Edwards on that front. It's more Eric Dyer I'll be worried about, and potentially Ben Davis on that side, because I don't think they're the best defenders when it comes to dribblers. Whereas Sanchez, I think, is a lot better on that front. Romero, I don't know if Romero's playing, how much he'll be on that side anyway, but I mean, there is always going to be a concern, especially with the form they're in. The form Dyer's in. Hopefully he's not losing his confidence at the moment. So there's always going to be a bit of concern. But hopefully, if we can have that more aggression and get on top of them, which we weren't really doing on last time we played them, maybe he won't be as much as a threat as he was.
If you bring up the opposition predicted lineup, we've gone for Trincao, Edwards, and Gomez as a front three. I mean, Gonçalves will be a big miss for them, being suspended, and Coates as well, who's usually a mainstay at the back, will be a big miss for them. A player who I want to talk about is Pedro Porro, obviously formerly on the books of Manchester City. This season he's played about 10 games, getting 4 assists so far this season from wing back. How much of a threat can he be against us?
Yeah, if I remember rightly, did he come on last game? I mean, I think he came on against us in the Champions League last time, and I think he was really good off the bench. I think that was him.
No, he didn't come on. He started the game, yeah.
Who am I thinking of? Maybe I'm thinking of Gonçalves. There was a player who came on and looked really good. Maybe it wasn't Pedro Porro. Then I don't know. I'm not too well versed in him, to be honest.
The guy that came on, I think you were talking about Paulinho. He came on for Trincao.
Maybe it was him.
With about 15 minutes to go.
Okay, different P.
Yeah,
different P. Yeah, I don't know too much about Pedro Porro. I've heard good things about him, but I don't know. I haven't seen him play too much, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. What I know from him, he's a very fast, tricky customer. Likes to get down the wing and get the ball in the box. And obviously, that shows with his 5 assists already this season. And actually, not that many games, 10 games, 5 assists. It was really impressive from Porro. One of those coming in the Champions League. The 2 players we've marked as ones to watch, Trincao and Marcus Edwards. I mean, we've spoken about Marcus Edwards. Trincao is an interesting one. Obviously, formerly on the books of Barcelona, went to Wolves, didn't really do much in the Premier League, but he's gone to Sporting Lisbon this season and he's had a fairly good start to the season.
Yeah, he's done quite well, and I always actually, despite the fact that he wasn't great at Wolves, I was very impressed with his dribbling ability and ability to open up space and create chances and actually get shots on goal as well. I think it was a bit underrated in that front. He always got himself in very good positions, but kind of the last pass or the last shot wasn't quite there. But his dribbling ability was fantastic, and that's something that we struggle against. He's got really good close control. He takes people on. He's like a taller, slightly stronger version of Bryan Hill in a way, and it's like what Bryan Hill might be if he had a bit more strength to him. And I think he's a good player, Trincao, and I think he could develop into a really good player. He's still very young. He's still got a lot of time on his side. I'm pretty sure they signed him from Barcelona signed him from Porto, I think it was, from Braga, I think it was, wasn't it?
It was Braga, yeah.
Braga. And I think he was playing really well there before. I think they only released him because of their money troubles, not because I don't think they think he's a good player. They just had to release players, and he was one of the ones they got a bit of money for. So I think he's going to develop into a really good player. I still think he's a bit rough around the edges right now, still needs refining, but at his young age, I think he's going to develop into a top player, and on his day, he can be very tricky.
Yeah, and he's already got 2 goals in the Champions League this year already in 4 games. In terms of the group, though, we're sitting on top with 7 points. Marseille in second with 6, Sporting third with 6, and Frankfurt sitting bottom with 4th. It's still such an open group when you look at it. And I mean, it's so important to get the job done tomorrow night because you don't want to be going to Marseille relying on a win out there in that kind of atmosphere, albeit I know half the stadium is going to be closed, but it'll still be an intense atmosphere. I mean, you know how well we face away from home in Europe. So, I mean, it's so important to get the job done tomorrow night. And Sporting know that if they lose tomorrow night, it's going to be difficult for them to qualify last game of the group.
What's the difference for Sporting between a draw and a defeat? How much of a difference that make for them?
Well, if Sporting draw, they'll be on 7, we'll be on 8. It heavily depends on what happens in Marseille.
But if Marseille, let's say Marseille win that, does it make too much of a difference if Sporting draw or lose?
Yes, because if Marseille win, they'll be on 9 points. And that means if Sporting lose, they'll be on 6 points. If they can get a point, they'll be on 7 points.
And they have Marseille last game.
No, we've got Marseille left.
Frankfurt. Yeah, they lost to Marseille twice. Okay, so a draw probably just about keeps them in it. Yeah. And they've lost to Marseille twice, so it goes head to head. So if they lose and Marseille win, that's it. We're through. They're out.
The brief from Sporting coming into this game is probably just do not lose. You know what I mean? Because if they lose, it's likely that they could be going out. But if they got a draw, they could be hanging in there for dear life. Obviously, a win would be the best result for them, obviously.
I'm just trying to get into their psychology, whether they're going to go all out for a win or whether they might settle for a draw in this game. I think it's interesting.
I think they'll look at they'll look at a draw as probably a good result.
Just keeps them alive for the last game.
Because if they get a draw, then obviously they go into the last game only a point behind us.
If they get a draw, then it means whatever happens in the other game, a win would take them through, I guess, next game.
If they beat Frankfurt.
If they beat Frankfurt.
Go to Marseille and win. Because if Marseille win tomorrow...
It doesn't, because whatever the result happens between us and Marseille, if they draw tomorrow and they beat Frankfurt, whatever happens between us and Marseille, they'll be going through, I think, right?
If you're saying if Marseille win tomorrow? Or...
If Sporting draw...
Yeah.
And Marseille... I don't think... Even if Marseille win, they'll be top and we'll be on 8, right? So it'll be 9, 8, and Sporting will be on 7. Yeah. So whatever happens between us and Marseille, one of us is going to drop points. So all they have to do is win.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's a very fair point. So you got to say that they'll come here with a draw.
Probably,
a draw will be a very good result for them, which doesn't really play into our hands because that
we want them to want to win.
Exactly. They'll probably be sitting back. They'll set up to frustrate us. And they'll give us the initiative on the game when we really want to see Sporting really come at us and we can pick them off on the break.
So that's a difficult thing. On the flip side, if we do win and Marseille fail to win, we will finish the group top. We'll be top. We can't not be top.
Do you want to see us carry on with the 3-5-2? Do you want to see us go 3-4-3? Maybe put Lucas Moura there?
If Lucas Moura is up to it, I would like to see us go back to 3-4-3 just because to have a bit more attacking impetus. Because I feel
good in Europe as well, isn't he, Lucas?
Yeah, he's in the Champions League. He seems to be much more used to European football. I know it could be a bit frustrating, but at least he gives us another option in the front three and is not so heavily reliant on Kane and Son just linking together. And if they're being nullified, then all of a sudden we have no options.
But having said that, the 3-5-2, the first half an hour against Newcastle was working really well. We were creating chances. We could have got a goal. A number of chances we were creating. Sonny had about 4 shots on goal, albeit a lot of them from outside the box. So you don't think maybe going with that 3-5-2 is not going to be the end of the world? I mean, it's
not going to be the end of the world.
Everyone's talking about this 3-5-2 saying, there's no chance creation, there's no this, there's no that. But actually, against Brighton, we create chances in the 3-5-2. Latter stages of the game against Leicester, we create chances in the 3-5-2. The early stages against Newcastle, before it all went wrong, we create chances.
Yeah, I feel like when the game's level and the other team has to come out a bit because it's still 0-0, then I feel like there's the 3-5-2 can still be effective. But once we went down against Newcastle, that was like it. We didn't once they got into their shape and were compact, we literally didn't create anything. And I think that's where the problems come in this formation when you're chasing the game. It's not a great formation for chasing the game. At 0-0, when there's spaces opening up and you're playing against attacking sides. Huh?
Sorry, even at 1-0 up, 1-0, 2-0 up.
Yeah, or winning. Or when you're winning. I think it's good formation. I just think if we do make a mistake and concede an early goal, then you're in that formation, then you can be a bit stuck. But having said that, I think if we did start in that formation, then maybe having the option to go to 3-4-3 if things go wrong, maybe that's the best way to go. I don't think we're doomed if we play that formation. I just think having Lucas there as well might maybe get us a bit further up the pitch than maybe in that 3-5-2. But I'm not too fussed either way. It's going to be interesting to see what Conte does. I don't think it's massively formation. All matters about the energy and the intensity and the aggressiveness of the players, and hopefully we can get close to them and start pressing them like we were doing. Like we did Frankfurt, we did very well, and stuff like that. So hopefully that we do get the win tomorrow. And look, whether we finish top or not, a win tomorrow we go through. A win tomorrow and Marseille dropping points, we go through top. So there's all to play for.
Yeah, absolutely. On the back of the last 2 performances and defeats, how confident are you going into this game?
We need a confidence booster massively. I think we are struggling right now because of injuries. Richarlison, Kulusevski, Romero, Højbjerg, all out. So am I massively confident we're going to win tomorrow? Right now, the way we're playing, and especially against, in the Champions League, I'm not overly confident. I'm not going to lie. I'm not overly confident we're going to win. Obviously, we still have the quality to win, even with the injuries. And with Sporting, who are not doing that amazing, even in Premier League themselves, you have to back us to win. But I think confidence is low tomorrow, so it's going to take a big effort to get everyone up, get the energy up, and make sure that we're dominating and we're setting ourselves on the game. And I'm backing us to do it. I think we're going to shade it, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be. I can see it being like a bit of a cagey game.
Yeah, and it's important that the fans do their job tomorrow night, isn't it?
Because, there's a tifo there.
Yeah, South Stand is getting ready for the tifo. I'm not sure what it's going to say, but I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully it can bring a bit of good atmosphere. And I don't want to see or hear the moans and groans and boos and stuff if we do go 1-0 down, because we need to just support the team till the end. They really need it, because there's lacking in a bit of confidence at the moment. Obviously lacking through the injuries, and they just need our support as much as we can give it to them.
Yeah.
I mean, Antonio Conte has said it a number of times, how we need to back the team and we need to keep supporting the team. Obviously, we're going through a really hard time at the moment, and the boos don't get us anywhere, do they?
No, definitely not. I was disappointed that the boos were so loud.
And in that Newcastle game, right, we played so well for the majority of that first half, and the boos were so loud. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I was disappointed, because it's our first home loss of the season. You know what I mean? All of a sudden they're starting booing and getting on his back. Maybe it's to do with the style of football, the fact that, or maybe it's just to do with the fact that we literally gave them 2 goals and there was just frustration out of that. But it feels like modern football fans just jump to booing a lot quicker than they used to, and that's just maybe that's just something I got to get used to.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up saying that you never boo Spurs player unless they do something really wrong, like for instance like Hossam Ghali throwing the shirt at Martin.
Booing used to be a sign of literally like it's the manager's last days. That's when when the fans were booing, and that was like, okay, the manager's doomed.
Yeah.
That's what used to be a sign of. Now it just seems like if you're losing, you're the fans booing. That's it. That's just how it is
for me.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I
I think it's completely wrong. I really do. And I personally only boo when there's something dreadfully wrong. I think I remember booing at the end of that Chelsea game when we lost 3-0 under Nuno. I definitely booed then, but that was Nuno's last days as well, or early days and last days. But you know what I mean? Like in situations like that, when you can see it's clearly not good enough. Mm-hmm. But right now with Antonio Conte,
or when the team's not trying, what I mean? I don't think you can throw that at this Conte team.
Yeah. And the only player specifically I've ever booed in a Spurs shirt is Hossam Ghali when he threw the shirt at Martin Yo. I mean, I probably would have booed Ndombele when he was walking off the pitch at Morecambe if I was there that day, but I wasn't, so it is what it is. But what's your prediction?
I'm just going to go with 2-1 Spurs.
2-1.
It's just going to be. I think it is going to be a tight one, and I think we're playing low confidence. But if Son and Kane, if we can get them involved as much as possible, like we were early on against Newcastle, then I think we can find some joy. But let's hope we can get some early goals, and if that happens, I think that's what we were trying to do against Newcastle, get ahead early. It didn't quite happen. If we could do that against Sporting, then I think we could get a good result.
When you look at the last game at home in the Champions League, it was a proper ding-dong battle, 3-2 against Frankfurt. Hopefully it's not going to be similar to that, because I don't know if our hearts can take that. But I'm hoping first and foremost for a good performance, and I'm going to go 2-0 to Spurs, actually. I think we can keep a clean sheet. I think we're going to be tight and compact and really work as a team tomorrow, and I think we can nick a few goals. And if we get an early goal tomorrow, I think that will really work in our favour, and it will force Sporting to come out a little bit more, and I think we can pick them off a bit more. So I'm going 2-0, my brother's going 2-1, and that is your match preview for the game tomorrow. I want to know your predictions for the game in the comment section below. Predicted lineup coming up next. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always,
come on you Spurs.